Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
Welcome to Caribbean Perspective. So glad you can join us. The story that dominates in today's edition for Monday, 19th May 2025, and brought to you in association with our friends at Antillean Group. Haiti's gang leader says he and U.S. President Donald Trump have one thing in common. They are here to drain the swamp. Details after this important message.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all perils, big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so glad to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillean Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
Welcome back. Haiti's most notorious and powerful gang leader, Jimmy Cherezier, or Barbecue, has told SBS News that he's going to keep fighting until his last breath. His declaration comes as the United Nations warns that violence-stricken Haiti is approaching a point of no return. An SBS reporter met Cherezier in Haiti's capital, Port-au-Prince, and reports.
Jimmy Cherezier, better known as Barbecue, frontman of the gang alliance Vive Ensemble, designated a terror group by the Trump administration. Barbecue has an unlikely hero.
I think we have something in common.
You and Trump?
Yeah. And during his campaign, he said, we need to drain the swamp.
We need to drain the swamp.
That's the same thing I want to do in Haiti.
The number of civilians displaced by gang warfare has sailed past 1 million, homeless in what was already the Western Hemisphere's poorest nation.
Certain day I wake up and I'm strong. In my mind, it is like I can do it, I can make it, but some other times I wake up in tears.
Kenya leads a United Nations-backed mission to help restore law and order. The latest arrivals at Port-au-Prince's International Airport. But their number is less than half the original target. The airport is closed to commercial flights due to overwhelming danger. Barbecue is portraying himself as some kind of modern-day savior of the people.
No, he killed people and burn houses, hospitals, and churches.
The gangs, which control 85% of the capital, unrelenting as they press for its total capitulation.
Well, I'm joined now by reporter Prue Lawan. Prue, thanks so much for joining us. We heard the thoughts of Barbecue there, but what do you think? Could these gangs really capture the capital, and what would happen from that point?
Janice, good evening. It would be extraordinary, wouldn't it? This is a country of 11 million people, so it's not small, more than 40% of the population of Australia. It's a less than 2-hour flight from Miami. Of course, you can't directly fly into the capital because the gangs have shot at planes, so commercial flights aren't allowed to land. I flew in on a chopper that was shot at twice last November. Wow. Civilians can't get out because the gangs control the roads. You could potentially buy your way out. That's extraordinarily risky. What's happened over the last just quarter is that more than 300 women and girls, this is what happens when the gangs go in, have been raped. Some of them appallingly have been raped by multiple gang members. More than 160 people have been kidnapped, not just in Port-au-Prince. 1,600 people have been killed, in addition to those 1 million displaced already last year. And by next month, more than 2 million people will face emergency hunger, because when people are displaced, they're not just displaced once, but twice, 3 times, 4 times. Barbecue says, Janice, that he's doing this on behalf of the poor. No one I spoke to agrees with his method of bringing about change. He said to me he wants total destruction.
Changes to the process of appointing a commission of police are not a current priority at this time for the government of Trinidad and Tobago. TTT News has more.
At the post-cabinet meeting on Thursday, the Prime Minister Kamla Persad Bissessa explained the thinking at this time.
I think in the short term we need to get a substantive commission of police, and changes to the legislation will take us a little more time, which will then subvert really what is the present law. But certainly we will consider changes to the law, AG. We have talked about it, but not in the short term. I think in the short term, I really would await the Police Service Commission's recommendations, which they were sent to President. I will not go and take away the merit list from the President. I will wait for the President to send it to us, and then we bring it to the Parliament in accordance with law.
The Prime Minister reminded that in 2006, then Prime Minister Patrick Manning, in collaboration with the Basdeo Pandey-led opposition, brought legislation that removed the Prime Ministerial veto and forever changed the process by which police top brass are appointed.
I was part of that process, Joel, you may remember, when Mr. Manning brought in this new system. And there was something good about it, because before the Prime Minister had the veto. The Prime Minister would veto any one person, Prime Minister would say no. Now you will tell me it's still the Prime Minister's veto, but not in substance, but in essence, because if the Parliament is governed by the Prime Minister's team, at the end of the day, it will still be the Prime Minister. So it's something that we need to look at. But it did give us some more transparency and oversight.
Prime Minister Pasal Bissessa said that the legislation that exists now may not be perfect, but it gives more openness to the process.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick,
in association with our friends at
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
A U.S. $2 million crime prevention initiative known as the CREATE Project has been launched to address crime in volatile communities across Kingston, St. Andrew, and parts of western and central Jamaica. Courtney Lewis of CVM News reports.
United States aid is all but gone as Jamaica and the U.S., through the Pan American Development Fund, launched the Community Resilience and Transformation Project, Project CREATE. The $2 million initiative is aimed at reducing crime in communities often seen as volatile. It's a welcomed interregional initiative following President Donald Trump's executive order to seize all USAID programs pending review. The chargé d'affaires at the U.S. Embassy in Kingston, Amy Tashko, says the long-awaited project is a targeted community-based approach to tackle violence driven by illegal firearms and lottery scamming.
Through specialized training and the provision of resources, we are supporting Jamaica's efforts to strengthen law enforcement's capacity to combat gangs, including by steering at-risk youth away from organized crime and towards activities that build up their community and their character.
She says the U.S. stands in solidarity in the war against gangs, and the 3-year initiative is an example of honored commitments of Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who visited the island in March.
We underscored our shared resolve to combat transnational crime, stem the flow of illicit drugs, build safer communities, and empower Jamaica's youth.
The theme of a shared vision was not lost on the Jamaica Constabulary Force, as SSP Dahlia Garrick, head of the Community Safety and Security Branch, emphasized partnerships and community participation as crucial to transformation.
This cornerstone partnership will see us getting specialized training. Our officers will receive training in crime prevention through environmental design and other evidence-based strategies. This training will be an empowering opportunity that will further increase the capacity of RJCF.
5 communities across Jamaica, Parade Gardens, Majesty Gardens, Gregory Park, Norwood, and Grange Hill will also benefit from mentorship, after-school programs, and improvement to infrastructure. Even more, the PADF's Beatriz Quintero says the approach is critical for social resilience and must involve Jamaica's youth.
In support of this, PADF is committed to engaging youth in dialogue and supporting them to access resources and services they need to reach their full potential.
Courtney Lewis for CVM News.
Security experts are warning that adopting El Salvador's hardline approach to crime locally in Trinidad and Tobago could backfire. CNC3's Radica de Silva has some details.
The El Salvador model involves mass arrests of gangsters, mega prisons, and military patrols. But criminologist Dr. Randy Sipasad tells the CNC3 News, apart from considering harsh crackdowns, the state should strike where it hurts the most, cutting off state contracts for gang leaders.
If you give a gang leader access to millions of dollars, it means that the gang leader becomes the one providing employment. The gang leader becomes the one putting food on the table in the communities. So people will develop a linkage with the gang leader. They will develop loyalty to the gang leader. Youths will have to gravitate to the gang leader. And it creates a situation that is really ripe for gang recruitment, and it legitimizes the gangs and the gang leaders.
He says the rehabilitation of prisoners, the social reintegration of convicts, and preventative social programs are also needed. Former police commissioner and former National Security Minister Gary Griffith warns blindly adopting the El Salvador model could hand dangerous powers to rogue police officers.
The last thing we want is to have police officers who might either be ignorant, vindictive, or rogue, having that type of authority to just arrest persons and incarcerate them. That must never take place in this country.
He says we must make better use of existing anti-gang laws, stronger intelligence, and improve coordination between police and the judiciary. But when contacted, Minister Alexander clarified only certain elements of the El Salvador model were being considered.
They're not going to treat it like how El Salvador treated. That's what I'm telling you. That's why we're looking at it together with the attorneys to see how best we could treat with it. It will obviously include the making of laws, the creation of laws, the implementation of these laws, the law enforcement of these laws. So all of that put together, we need to tighten the gap, or close the gap between the criminal element and the law-abiding citizens.
He says other crime models, such as the one used in New York, are also being reviewed. Radica de Silva, CNC3 News.
Over now in Guyana, where the Alliance for Change, AFC's Laura George, urges government to protect border communities amid Venezuela aggression. Antonio Day of HGP Nightly News reports.
Many citizens are apprehensive after Venezuela's most recent military attacks on Guyana Defense Force ranks as the country moves forward with its planned elections to annex Guyana's Essequibo. Alliance for Change member and indigenous rights activist Laura George is pleading with the state to establish backup plans for citizens of communities like Arau, Kaikan, and Iteringbang, which are close to the Venezuelan border in the event of attacks.
Guyana has to address how do we deal with these persons who live on the Venezuela shore, who might very well be under pressure to vote along with Venezuela, under pressure and perhaps intimidated or threatened by the Venezuelan army.
The International Court of Justice, ICJ, granted Guyana's request for a temporary injunction against Venezuela's declared intention to hold elections in Essequibo. Given the large number of Venezuelan men in military uniforms moving through communities, she suggested that the government hold a meeting with the populace to discuss the security measures that will be implemented.
We're also very much aware of the lack of effective protection and services that we've given prior, during incidents that have affected our army personnel.
George, in response to questions posed by Nightly News, debriefed on a recent occurrence in Arau.
Like last week Thursday, the residents of Arau and Kaikan and those places couldn't sleep because they reported that there were 3 boatloads of army personnel that had at least 40 in each boat, Venezuelan soldiers. They further learned that it was a change of the guard that takes place, from time to time.
The AFC executive also touched on her expectations of the National Two Shows Council conference slated for Monday.
The practicality of the NTC conference has been, it has not yielded response to policy, legislative, and program and other areas there. So that's why we continue to have Jawala's situation.
She said at every two-show conference, the government picks and chooses what matters should be addressed, which restricts indigenous leaders from effectively addressing grave matters. In this context, George stated that considering the ongoing conflict between Venezuela and Guyana, two shows should be apprised on what measures the state will take to effectively protect its citizens.
It wastes the time of the two shows and the communities, is disrespectful to them because we're trying to make them feel that it's being addressed.
I'm Antonio Day reporting for the HGP Nightly News.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel for daily regional news and more, in association with our friends at Antillian Group.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all perils, big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so glad to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.